was brought over today. All right, good. The monitors joined the new number. No, seriously. But we're just getting rid of stuff.
Yes, you're recording. You're live. Bye, Mark.
Oh, that's about slow. Shalom, everyone. Okay. Hello. Hello. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam she'akol niyeh bivaro. Amen. I am. Okay. So anyway, nice to see those who are here, those who are streaming. Eric, do we actually have streamers?
We do.
Excellent. Streamers of the world,
Not streamers.
unite. What?
The Zoomers.
Zoomers of the world, unite. Okay, so anyway, this should be very interesting to all of you. And as Tony knows, I always try to make things useful also. And this will be extraordinarily useful. Extraordinarily, if I can speak English, extraordinarily, I have to make an adverb, useful. I have to be able to see stand, so I have to move up. Joe, do me a favor, move over 2 seats if you don't mind. Okay, unless you love that seat. If you're attached to that seat, then, okay. So anyway, as you all know, the period between the second day of Passover and the holiday of Shavuot, which is a period of 49 days. And I meant to look this up, and I didn't, unfortunately. So I have to look this up a second. Hold on, folks. Sorry about that. Because I meant to do this to give you the verses from the Torah. Torah. Hi, Kat. Come on, take a seat. Hold on. Let's see if I can find. Okay. It says in the book of Leviticus, or book of the Torah, right? Chapter 23, verses 9 through, but they're not any papers. Don't even bother papers yet. 9 through 21, quote, when you come into the land which I give to you, you shall reap the harvest of the field. Then you shall bring the sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. And a sheaf of grain is called an Omer. Okay. So therefore we are to bring an Omer as a what? As a Thanksgiving offering for the first fruits for your harvest. Tony. A sheaf, gathering of a sheaf, S-H-E-A-F, not sheep, sheaf. So it's a gathering of grain of some sort, or let's say a sheaf could be also grain or stalks of something. If you remember this, one of the dreams that Joseph had, and there were 7 sheaves that were bigger than the thin ones, and they ate them up. Remember that whole thing? Okay. So anyway, of grain, exactly. But more importantly for us, since I'm assuming that none of us has any grain around, and we're not farmers, I'm looking around, no one here is a real farmer. You might used to be, and you might have some vegetables in your backyard or your side yard, but no one here is. So anyway, it is a time of Thanksgiving, and it's a period of these 49 days. So one could simply, during the 49 days, which we do every Friday night here at Temple, as a part of the service, at some point in the service, we offer the bracha, the blessing for Sefirot HaOmer. The word Sefirot means counting of the Omer. Sefirot HaOmer. And so we count the days. The commandment is to count the days. And by the way, if you simply go to either your iPhone, your Apple store on your phone, or the Google store, you can download an app, and the app will tell you, go through every single day of the 49 days, the meditations to do, which we're going to do in a moment. I'm going to teach you that, as well as different kinds of prayers that can also be said on each one of the 49 days. So in other words, what I'm going to be teaching you today, you essentially don't have to memorize it because you can get an app and just follow along every day. So the bottom line is, yes, you will fulfill the mitzvah of counting of the Omer by simply saying the bracha, which I'll teach you now in a moment. However, what does that mean? How does simply doing the mitzvah really enable the mitzvah to have any spiritual energy? And as I was teaching Tony, and I always teach in my Kabbalah classes about this, the following. If you would imagine SpaceX up there in the Kennedy Space Center, and it has a rocket engine to it, but it's a smaller engine compared to the Gemini rocket that's going to be supposedly taking off very shortly, which supposedly is going to be the largest rocket, Artemis, I think it's called, which will be the largest rocket ever made to take people eventually to the moon and for the next time, and then obviously eventually to Mars. And so one level of a smaller booster will simply take off, but it ain't going to get to the Mars. It's not going to get to the moon. It's not going to get to the space center. It might simply get up like the other day, they were showing John Glenn. It was a thing of John Glenn. I think it was the first human to go in a little satellite, little capsule, and go around the Earth for the first time, right? Okay, that's small. It couldn't go any further because it didn't have enough power. And so offering just the bracha and fulfilling the mitzvah is a spiritual, is a holy act. And that's all Judaism requires one to do, to say the blessing and the 49, every 40 of the 49 days. However, is there a spiritual power behind that bracha, that blessing? Is there anything that you put into it in terms of a kavanah, in terms of your intention, your focus, your mindfulness? And so that then becomes the purpose of my class today. So if you take this first sheet, which of course, the structure of the Sefirot. If you have a pen or a pencil, that would be very helpful. If you don't, raise your hand and Eric will be glad to get that for you, correct? Everyone has a writing utensil? Okay. This will be very helpful. And those of you who are online, we will we'll get these to you. Okay? Now, this is going to be an Excel, Eric, can I put it down?
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. Now, as I mentioned in advertising this class, this is a book, okay, not a big book, okay, that I wrote, and let's see, when it was, I printed 2021, so 4 years ago, on the counting of the Omer. And during this, I think it was in 2019 actually, that every day during the counting of the Omer, I was inspired by my kavanah, by my meditations to write home, reflecting on, and you'll see, the kavanah of the day, the intention, the spiritual energy of the day in a very special way, which I will talk to you about in a few moments. And so this little booklet is made up of my 40 poems that I wrote. Okay. 2 years ago, every morning during the 49 days, I did a video on my own and I read my poem and then I did a further reflection on the poem of the day and the day of the 49. I had a lot of time because that was during COVID and I had very little to do. I had nothing much to do yet because I never met Temple Sinai. And so I had time to do these things. I might do it again this year. We'll see. So anyway, I'm going to read to you the following from my own book, if I may. Okay. In the schema of existence, as envisioned by the students of the Kabbalah tradition, which is Jewish mysticism, all existence, All existence could be schematically described by what is called the tree of life, in Hebrew, Eitz Chaim, which is this diagram that you have here. The tree is constructed of 10 Sefirot. Now, a Sefirah is a Hebrew word for circle. So you see 10 circles. There are not 10 circles in some mystical, spiritual place somewhere, flying around, moving around. But this is the best way for the Kabbalists, the Jewish mystics, to try to describe something which cannot really be described at all, okay? And notice, starting from the top down, Keter, Chachma, Bina, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. Okay. A Sefirah is in a way a filter which transforms this light, the light of God, into a particular force or attribute in which the Creator guides the world. Okay, let me explain again very briefly what that means. God is infinite and God is all. But how can we experience what is everything? It's impossible. The same way, obviously, if we were to look up, the sky looks bright again. If we were to look directly at the sun, it would be very, very difficult to do. And so what do? My glasses turn automatically darker. We could wear sunglasses. And then, of course, take, for instance, the lenses that, let us say, a photographer uses, different lenses to filter the light in different ways. So if we want to say that there is the light of God that literally sustains all existence, but the word light is not the best word to use because there's a light bulb, there's lights there, there's lights here, there's light from the outside. Let's change the word light, which in Hebrew is or, transliteration OHR, Aleph Vav Resh, to being energy. The energy of God is infinite, but we need to have it filtered so that we can be able to relate to it and this light to be able to relate to us. So this is where your pen comes in handy. Keter, the top one, we will call pure spiritual energy. So if you want to write those words down, if you don't want to, it's okay. Pure spiritual energy. Okay. Chachma is wisdom. If I'm going too fast, let me know. Bina is understanding. Da'at is knowledge. And under Da'at, draw a line across, all the way across, under Da'at. Because we're going to divide the Sefirot into sections. So the first section, first of all, Keter is all by itself. Keter is, let us say, the infinite energy of God. Chachma is what? Wisdom, which means pure thought. Bina is understanding. Now, notice, as you're going to see very quickly, there's the right side, there's the left side, and what you want to do is the middle column is the most important one of all because it brings together the right and the left, as you'll see, the positive and the negative. The right side is the positive side. The left side is the negative side. They have to give it a balance. So now you might say, what does this mean exactly practically? Well, if you would have an idea, Joe, you have an idea, but you just have a pure idea, and therefore you then reflect on it and you say, aha. And that's called da'at or knowledge, that aha moment. So for instance, chachma is, bina is, and Da'at is, aha, I got it. So I'm going to give a very simple and silly example. I had a colonoscopy. And of course, before the colonoscopy, you have anesthesia, right? And I love that anesthesia. Okay, it's great stuff. Okay, propofol, propofol. Okay, I love that stuff. Okay. So after the procedure is done and I'm waiting for Judy to pick me up, I had aha, guess what? I think that there's another usage for this this anesthesia, that when you wake up from it, you can go about and do whatever you want to do. You're not like regular anesthesia, like in surgery, you have the recovery and it's a long thing, it's a long procedure to come out of it. And actually, some doctors have said that the anesthesia they actually use for real surgery stays in the body for almost 30 days, which is why after surgery, people feel very tired and stuff. It stays in the cells of the body for almost 30 days. Okay, so I had an aha moment. But then all of a sudden I said, okay, I got this idea, but what can I do about the idea? So the minute I say what, that's the understand. I'm trying to understand, where does this idea go to? And then all of a sudden it came together. This is my aha, my da'at moment. Aha, I'm going to look for people to fund an airline so that when people go on long flights, like Betty and Eric went to Japan, and they were looking forward to such a long flight, it's called Knock 'em Out Airlines. You get on the plane, there are going to be a doctor and an anesthesiologist in the plane. They shove an IV into you. They give you propofol, and 10 hours later, they wake you up and say, okay, go enjoy yourself. And I'm still looking for anyone to fund this airline because ideas only go so far. Okay. So you understand what I'm saying now? Okay. Crazy. I know. Okay. You'll laugh someday. Yeah. See, there's a future in that. The only problem is what happens if the person has an allergic reaction on the plane. Well, there are a lot of problems with that. Okay. Now let's continue. Chesed is kindness or love. Unconditional kindness. Gavur, oh, yes, Tanny. Yes, yeah, charity, kindness, love. Okay. Gavura is judgmental, critical, holding back emotionally. Now, if you think of yourselves, think of people you know. There are people who are on the right completely, some people on the left completely. People who live a life of chesed. They're always doing good for everybody. But if you're only doing good for everybody all the time, you're going to wear yourself out. No one could do that 100% of the time. But on the other hand, the Gevura, if you're always the person who's judgmental, putting down people, judging them, being critical of them, of people, of life, guess what? First of all, you're not going to have very many friends, obviously. No one wants to be with you. And so therefore, the middle one, Tiferet, is the harmony of the emotions. A little bit of chesed, a little bit of gavura, and you put them together and you have the balanced person. Okay. Draw a line on the Tiferet across. So notice the top three, or top three, Chachma being a da'at, are the intellectual. Chesed, gavura, Tiferet are the emotional. Neitzach is unconditional physical energy. Hod is conditional physical energy. Unconditional, conditional. What exactly do I mean about that? Let us take, for instance, a person who is running a 100-mile dash. They get to the start line, they get down, however they do that. I've watched it, I've never run, to say the least. However, the gun goes off and they take off, right? At 100-meter dash, it's not that far. They got to go all out. I think, what is the record now? Under 2 seconds or something insane amount of time. Okay. But what about Hod? If a person is running a marathon, 26 miles, can they go all out for 26 miles? Some of these Kenyans do amazing. I mean, I don't know what the record is last year for the marathon, like the New York City Marathon. It really is extraordinary. But they have to do what? They have to measure their time, speed, and energy levels in order to be successful. Correct? Right, Stan? Sure. So notice how one is unconditional energy and the other is withholding it. Yesod in the middle of those two is kind of taking our physical being and bringing it into our center, balancing it out. And then finally, Malchut is our grounding. It is, of course, what? The balance of all of this. The Kabbalists actually were able to put this on many different levels. God had a thought. God, the infinite being of spiritual energy, according to the Kabbalists, had the desire to create all of existence. So God had the thought, so to speak. God analyzed the thought, Bina. God understood the thought, knowledge. And then God began, out of God's love, chesed, for all humankind and all existence, to begin the creative process. But God had to, what? Had to categorize things, put things into shapes and forms and beings and whatever, because otherwise it would be a big mishmash here, right? And therefore, you had to have chesed and gevura, and then bring it all together into Tiferet. And then God had to also continue to burst energy into everything, but the energy had to be controlled, and so that's Nesach and Yahod. Okay. So I've just given a very brief understanding of what the Kabbalists believe is all of existence. If you were to think about this, the Kabbalists said that there is an infinite number of these 10 energy vehicles distributing God's energy in all of existence, coming down from the highest spiritual levels to our life out here on earth and all of the universe. But the thing is, we have the ability to move the energy back up. The energy flows, to use the expression, down, and we have the ability to make it flow back up by the way we live physically, by the mitzvot we do physically, by the way we live emotionally, and how we think, our kavanah, our intellectual side. Okay, I'm going to ask a very dangerous question. Does anyone have any questions?
Rob, I only had a question. I'm not gonna give her the mic, so you want to give her the mic. Just repeat it.
When they were that diagram, what was your intention for if you use that?
As a focus to number one.
Rabbi, could you repeat her question?
Oh, Tony wants to know, what was the purpose of the diagram of the Sefirot in this fashion? It's in order to put into a capsulated 3D form, into an object, a form that you could see, how to understand how it operates in terms of the right side, the left side, and the center. And if you think about it, it is basically a tree structure. Interestingly enough, actually, it's upside down. Okay, because it actually comes from the top and goes down, but I'm not going to get into that. Okay, so Tony, they felt that this was the way to most easily explain how the system works. It's sort of like, and believe you me, I've never looked at one, but if you want to try to understand how a computer works, and you open up some of these technical manuals, they have these diagrams, right? Okay, why? Do you need a diagram? If you know it, you don't need a diagram. But if you don't know, it helps to maybe explain it. Or the same way as if you wanted to buy a manual to try to understand how a car works. The hopes is you can actually fix it. Good luck. Okay, Joe, you had a question.
Repeat the question.
Joe wants to know, why is the Bina understanding on the negative side? Because everything on the negative side is the side in which things are encapsulated or put into a box, are not totally free-flowing and open. So for instance, and you need to do that. So for instance, one of my high school, one of the young people that a person I grew up with, and he ends up being a mathematician. And for a matter of fact, he is one of the top mathematicians in the world. He's at Berkeley. Kenny Ribbit is his name. And there's a book called The 10 Top Mathematicians in the World, and he is one of them. And he's a full professor of higher mathematics at Berkeley and the Sorbonne. And I asked Kenny once, what is the purpose of what you do? And he said, there's no purpose at all. It is pure thought. However, if one were to try to take his mathematical algorithms and all the things that theorems and whatever he comes up with, and you then have to put on the other side, you immediately limit them. In other words, his ability to just free flow. But the minute you begin to say what application is for this, that's the left side to understand it in order to then make something of it. So the right side is just pure flowing all the time. The left side is the constriction of emotions, thoughts, our physical being, in order to make it happen. After all, here's a chair. And we don't normally think about the atoms in anything. In this chair, there are atoms. There are atoms, there are neutrons, there are protons. Everything is moving around. Of course, in a solid, it's moving around less actively, right, than other things. I don't really know about what I'm talking about, but I'm going to say it anyway. But the fact is, there are atoms and atomic structures in this chair. What holds this chair to be a chair? What makes this happen? Because someone put a mold and it stays this way. Why doesn't this chair all of a sudden become a floor? Because everything has a form. Everything is being held together in a certain way. Our physical bodies are this way. It's kind of funny, I think. That's the way my mind works. As some of you know, about 3 years ago, before I even met you guys, no, I think it was while I met you guys, I jammed my finger into a door, not to go the whole thing. Remember, they had to remove this finger. I won't point this out because that's not a nice thing to do. But this tall person finger, this the big thing. Okay, that person. Okay. And anyway, so anyway, they had to remove the nail. And of course, the nail looks good, right? Okay, you wouldn't know it. Okay, my concern was, is this going to grow back as a toenail or a fingernail? Okay, but it grew back it doesn't look like a fingernail, does it? I mean, no, it doesn't look like a toenail. No, okay. How does it know that? I don't know. It's the genetic structure it's amazing. This is all the left side. The left side is the side that defines things, puts things into form. The right side, there's no form at all. It's just movement on intellectually, okay, and emotionally and physically. Okay. So now, this is where it's going to get a little complicated, so to speak. So, take the piece of paper that says printable Omer calendar. On your left hand, and your right hand still have your chart. Okay. Okay. And there's, I think, 5 pages to the printable Omer calendar. Okay. And the chart on the right. The rabbis, the mystics, believed that certain of the Sefirot govern every single day. Each day of the week, and how many days of the week are there? 7, are governed by certain divine energies on that day, are more active on one day versus another. But let's start from the top now. Keter is the being of a spiritual being of God. Chachma, Bina, Da'at are the intellectuals. They do not have a function of the days of the week. They simply don't, okay? Because they're so high up there in the spiritual divine realm, they are constantly emanating to us, coming down to us, filling us, thoughts, feelings. Did you ever have a thought and you wonder where it came from? It's God through Chachma filling your brain up. Those moments. Someone said to me, how do I get the ideas to write my sermons? God only knows. I have no idea. Okay. So anyway, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are called the lower 7 Sefirot. They are the ones that govern every single day of the week. Now you might say to me, Rabbi, how do you know that? And how do the Kabbalists know that? I'm going to teach you how to know that. It is very simple. By simply saying, this day is the day of Chesed. And the minute you make that affirmation, then you feel Chesed. It is like a philosopher once said, how do I know that there really is a God? And that philosopher said, because you have the thought that there is a God, proves that there is a God. Because why would you ever have the concept of something infinite? Because you are a finite creature. Why would you have any concept of anything that's infinite? The fact that you do must be proof that God placed that idea into your very being or enabled it to happen. Okay. So, right on your chart now, Chesed is Monday. I'm sorry, let's take it back. Chesed is Sunday. Gevura is Monday. Tiferet is Tuesday. Netzach is Wednesday. Hod is Thursday. Yesod is Friday. And Malchut is Saturday, or of course Shabbat. And the next week starts all over again. So take, for instance, what day is today? Thursday. On the Jewish, remember this is a Jewish calendar week, okay? Not an English calendar week. Okay, because what's the first day of your week, Jane? Okay, Joe, what's the first day of your week? Depending, yeah. If you're a school teacher, it's Monday, right? But what happens if you are, I know a number of people in police departments, and constantly their weeks are constantly changing, and they don't have a first day of the week, okay? And obviously, if you're in Israel, what's the first day of the week? Sunday, because Shabbat is the end of the week. Yeah. So this is according to the Hebrew calendar, not English, okay? Because otherwise you say Chesed must be Monday. But Chesed is the first day of the week, which is Sunday as a Jew. That's our first day of the week. Okay. So what then does this mean? And leaving us, we're not even talking about the Omer yet, obviously. Every week, every day, all the time is governed by these energy levels. This is your horoscope for the day. So let us say today is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The 5th Sefirah, the 5th day of the week, what is that? Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, what? Hod. So today, if you wanted to wake up this morning and would say to yourself, you know something, the energy of Hod governs my day today. So what then does that mean? It might mean that you're going to say to yourself, you know something, if I was going to be running around all day today with different, I'm going to go to Costco, and then after Costco, I'm going to go to Aldi's. Sounds like my day, Judy's day. Okay, I'm going to go from Aldi's, and then later on I'm going to go to BJ's, and then I'm going to go to Publix. If a Thursday is not the day to do that, because Hod is saying you must control what you're doing today because the energy is not there for you today. It's a day, and why? Because remember, the Jewish week is working toward what? Shabbat, right? So you got to become aware of that. So let's go back. If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense in some ways. The first day of the week is what? Chesed, kindness. Sunday, you finish if an ideal way, if you were to actually observe Shabbat as it should be observed, I guess one could say it could be observed, it's a day of relaxation. You kind of just lay low, you know, right, Betty? Sure, okay. You lay low, you don't do very much, you kind of relax, you kind of study Torah, you kind of just are and enjoying. And so therefore what? Your energy levels are very high, right? And hopefully your emotional level is very high also. You feel very positive about life. So Sunday should be a positive, good day. It should be a day filled with chesed, with love, with kindness. I'm going to do family kinds of things. I'm generally speaking, obviously. But guess what? How many of us want to go to work on Monday? Not many people. Oh my God, it's Monday. Uh, I remember my wife Judy was a school teacher, and she did not like. First of all, Sunday nights were not fun, especially when she taught first. When she was a teacher of first and second grade, that wasn't fun because you had to get your lesson plan ready. You had to get ready for the next week. It wasn't great. And Monday, of course, began the work week. And even if you love your job, many people just are not. Really? Okay. But then as the week begins to progress, Tuesday, you kind of now get into it. So therefore, that's Sefirot. It's kind of a peaceful day. You're in the kind of the middle of the week almost. And Netzach, which would be Wednesday, you still have a lot of energy. But Thursday, I don't know about you. Thursday, you know something? I can't wait for TGIF. Thank God it's going to be Friday tomorrow. Okay? The divine, God. So each one of the days of the week is governed by a different energy level from God. Stan.
Work 6 days equally. You work 6 days equally, and the seventh day of rest.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
Here you don't work 6 days equally for
Well-
what it is. You're
Well, the Bible never
opposing
said.
days.
Well, the Bible never said that God worked all the days equally. Each day had different creations, right?
Right, but each day is a day of creation.
Yeah. Well, it's not ignoring the creation, but they're saying the creative process has to be different. We have to be aware of our energies. On Thursday or so, we're getting tired. It's been a long week. I'm getting worn out. How many people actually have a weekend? Say, boy, I can't wait till, oh, thank God, it's TGIF, right? I can't wait for Saturday. I can't wait for Sunday. Friday night, I'm going to go, in a non-Jewish environment, let's say, to put it that way. Well, I'm going to be going out Friday night. I'm going to be clubbing or going dancing or hanging out with my friends. I'm going to go to the bar. I'm going to have I can't wait for Friday, right?
So the sixth day, when God created man,
Yeah.
was God's worst day.
Well,
According to that.
I don't know if you can combine the two. I don't know if you necessarily can apply one to the other. So notice what's being discussed here. It's really talking about life, right? But also you can call upon, by the way, you can call upon these energy levels anytime that you want to. So for instance, let's say you're trying to figure something out. You have a problem, some kind of problem, and you're trying to think it out. You can pray to God through chesed, asking God to open up the spiritual energies of chesed to fill your mind with thought to help you out. Sorry. Tuesday is the best day. Yes, because energy levels are flowing very high, which also is very interesting. The Baba Meiser, or whatever you want to call it, superstition, the best day of the week to move is on Tuesdays. The best day of the week to have surgery is Tuesday. Yes, because it's a lucky day. And therefore it's the day of chesed, of love. And therefore God's love is flowing down upon you to move, whatever you need to do, make major decisions on Tuesday. That's the best day for that. Okay. Or for instance, you can call upon these energy levels anytime. It used to be, let's say I used to do 100-mile bike rides, and somewhere around 75 miles, you get tired, right? And so I would start to meditate on Netzach, on God, on pure physical energy to kind of pump me up. And again, you could say, any one of you could say, does that really work? Well, whether it's my mind opening up to it, or it really is God's energy filling me up to help me to finish the 100 miles, it works. It creates what? The mind and body and soul connection is the greatest connection that we can have. And I've talked about this other times in other classes. I have met people who break a nail and think they're dying. And I've met people who are dying who face it with such great strength. Where is our strength? It's up here and it's inside of here, right? Okay. So everyone follows sort of along? Okay. So now, If you were to take the printable Omer calendar, I'm going to add now another level to all of this, if you're following. Remember I said every day of the week is governed by a Sefirot. So Sunday is Chesed, Monday is Gevurah. By the way, Gevurah is the day of judgment. Okay, it's the hardest day of the week to get going. Okay, but once you get going, it's sort of like pedaling in a bicycle ride. The first couple of miles, you don't push very hard, and then you get yourself going. Okay, and then Tuesday is Tiferet, the day of peacefulness and calmness. Wednesday is Netzach, Thursday is Hod, Friday is Yesod, and Saturday, Shabbat is Malchut. But if there are 49 days, I'm sorry, there are 49 days between the second day of Passover and the holiday of Shavuot. How many weeks is that? 7. Aha! So just as there are 7 Sefirot, one for each one of the 7 days of the week, guess what? There is also another Sefirot level governing each one of the 7 weeks of the counting of the Omer. So here's the key to this whole thing. Each one of the 49 days, okay, following everybody? March, okay, sort of, okay. There is an interaction between the Sefirah of the day and the Sefirah of the week. Eric, got it? Yeah. Okay. So this is the power. There is energy flowing from Keter, from the divine, throughout all of existence. And according to this system, we'll call it a system, we'll call it an OS, operating system. According to the operating system of the counting of the Omer, there are energy levels flowing every day of the week, each day of the week, and the week itself. So let us look at today. Notice I take this home with you. This gives you the calendar, the day itself. Count one day is on Sunday night, April 13th. You count the Omer at nighttime, not daytime. But if you forget to do it at night, you can do it anytime. Okay, we'll reform. Okay. Notice, therefore, what? If Sunday night, but therefore, what day is it? Monday. Okay, because remember the night before is the night before the day, right, everybody? Okay. Sunday night, today, is one day of the Omer. In Hebrew, Hayom Yom Echad LaOmer. What is the first day of the week? Well, no. Well, yes. Yes, but Chesed. Okay. And what is the first week? Chesed. So notice Chesed, She, B'Chesed. In English, Chesed in Chesed. Okay. So let us say, for instance, you say the counting of the Omer that night, and you do a meditation. And you say, this is the day, there's such love on this day. So that means that's a week from, oh my God. A week from this Sunday night and a week from this coming Monday is Chesed Sheba Chesed. There's going to be, that would be April 14th. It's a day of love. There is such a flow of love in the universe and therefore in my life. Open up your heart. Go love someone. Go love yourself. Go love a tree. Go love the sky. Go love hibiscus that's blooming. Gardenia that smells in your backyard. Something. Let the energy flow and feel the energy. The idea of this is feel the energy of the day and acknowledge it back to God and ultimately say, thank you, God. Okay? To give you an yes. Yes.
Repeat the question.
Does everyone get that same energy? Yes, but not everyone takes it in the same amount. God will give you what you are able to handle intellectually, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Because God will never give you more than that because then you can handle, your system can handle, because otherwise what's going to happen to you? You're going to crash. Just like a computer. They used to crash much anymore. Okay. So let me give you an example of what I did here. I'll read you my first poem. This is Chesed Sheba Chesed, the first day, which this year will be the night of the 13th and into the 14th. O love that loves all from the all, that embraces everything in one from the infinite to the finite in a hug that is so enrapturing that it takes the breath away, and then in simultaneity gives it back again with a sweetness that effuses every petal on the tree of life. Oh, chesed, in chesed, if only you could remain. But sadly, or whatever, the march of the days must commence, and so too does life go on and on and on. So what I tried to capture, or I captured in this poem, is the idea of love, right? It's a very positive poem, but to realize we want to stay in this day. I wish every day could be chesed sheba chesed, right? Would that be nice? Every day should be a chesed sheba chesed day. The energy, the positive energy of love, kindness, good feelings, compassionate, basically everything's working out. But guess what? As I pointed out in the last one, the march of the days we got to move along. I still have 48 days more to go. No matter what. Life, time, stands still for nobody. As we all know, right, Rich? Oh, by the way, this is Richard Sherman. There he is. Hi, Richard, everyone. There he is. Okay. He's a lovely guy. He's just joining us. Okay, these classes. Yes, Joe. Probably not. This whole thing is weird. Are we kidding me? Oh, one second. Wait for the microphone because it's a long question.
Oh, okay. The very Orthodox men are studying Torah every single day. How does the Omer fit in with their studying?
Well, in addition to studying, they're also praying, right?
Right.
Yeah. So every single night during the 49 days of the counting of the Omer, they will say this prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu v'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat Omer. Say the prayer for the counting of the Omer. There'll be other meditations, and those who are Kabbalists will then do a meditation. So just for fun, take out your that other page I gave you all in Hebrew. Where that page was. Okay. Okay. Now, let's see, where is it? Now, I'm not in any way being critical of any of you. I love all of you, even Rich, who I just met recently. I love him too. Okay. This Temple Sinai is a love fest, right, Joy? Right? Stan, March, everyone, we love each other. Okay. Okay. This is a Kavanah page for the first day of Chesed Sheba Chesed. Now you have to know this page here. Okay, you see the page? That's the old Hebrew page. Now, you have to know the system here, and it's very, very difficult and very complicated. It was created by a Rabbi Shalom Sharabi, who was a 17th century Yemenite mystic, who eventually made his way to Israel. And I'm certainly not going to take you through this because it would be very difficult for me to even explain it. However, I will simply read to you the very top part and I'll translate it for you. Shavua Aleph, the first week. Out of the how many? 7. Chachma, the Chachma, Bada'at, Chachma, Gevur Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Malchut. So what it's saying here is Chachma, right? That's the second Sefirot, governs this day. And he mentions, notice, the Sefirot we're studying. Chesed, Chachma, Bina, Da'at, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Malchut. Okay. Next Hebrew. Yom Echad LaOmer. Day 1 of the Omer. Leil Rishon. The first night of the Omer. And then there is a very complicated meditation. For those of you who do know Hebrew, you'll notice that what's constantly repeating itself here is what? The 4-letter name of God, Yod He Vav He, that we pronounce Adonai, with different kind of vowel structures to them. And each one of these different vowel structures represent different aspects of the movement of the Sefirot, which I'm not going to get into. Okay, because it would be impossible in this setting. And we probably have to be studying for about 10 years together before we get to this level. Okay. Now you might say, well, Rabbi Steve, do you understand this? No. Can I meditate on this? Somewhat. I try. Okay. So to go back to your question, Joe, a person who, and there are people who really are the Hebrew word is mekubalim, real Kabbalists. There are not many left in this world today, in our time period. But that they really can daven this. They could really use this as a meditation to take them to very high spiritual levels each day of the week. So in other words, this whole book is made up of other different meditative practices, but you can see page after page every single day, all 49 days. Every 49 days has another page to it. Eric.
You mentioned that you.
Microphone, Eric.
Oh, I don't have it. I'll give you that. So in some of the things you just said, you mentioned Chokhmah, which is not a Sefirot that we count for the days. It's one of the upper ones. How does that relate to the other ones in terms of the counting?
I knew you were going to say that. Because there are, remember, we studied this in our Zohar class. And by the way, Saturday mornings, 9:30. Learn about this stuff. Okay. On another level is that, remember, it's a multi-leveled universe of systems. And so in the background, Chokhmah is operative, but it's not directly operative. It's like a background thing, but it's not directly. Okay. So it's there, but not there at the same time. Yeah, that's the best way to answer it. So let's take, for instance, day 2, which is going to be Monday night, April 14th, and therefore daytime, Tuesday, April 15th. Now, okay, so therefore it is what? Second day of the Omer, Gevurah, and Chesed is still the same week, for second day of the first week. So today is 2 days of the Omer, and Gevurah Sheba Chesed, Gevurah in the Chesed. So now what? If Gevurah is in the Chesed, it means that Chesed is not going to be as unlimited and flowing as it was in the first day. On Chesed Sheba Chesed, right, Tony? There's nothing stopping love. Nothing's holding love back that day throughout all of God's universe. But on the second day of the Omer, Gevurah comes into operation, and Gevurah channels it. Gevurah holds it back. And if Gevurah really is very powerful that day, guess what? It could actually dam up the flow of Chesed completely. If you put too much emphasis on Gevurah, it is a day in which you want to measure your emotions that day. You want to be very, very careful because your emotions can go one way or the other. And for that one, just to give you an idea of what I tried to do here, day 2. If Chesed is to rise out of the darkness that comes out of the arms of Gevurah, that chokes the very air which it tries to breathe, then something needs to be done. But from where? Will it come above from the mind that speaks all, or rise up from the intentions of us, those who strive in holiness to make all that is holy? I was in conflict on Gevurah Sheba Chesed, because the question becomes how can we prevent Gevurah from taking over? How can we hold it in its place? And that's why day 3, which would be, of course, Tiferet Sheba Chesed. If Chesed is kindness and love that is unending, and Tiferet is peaceful harmony, uniting all, then when they are together, there is a special plane of existence that makes life worth living. Doing, loving, thinking, feeling, eating, breathing, and being. So in other words, when Chesed and Gevurah are held in proper balance, and guess what? Life is perfect. Because guess what? We're living an emotional, loving, feeling life, but we're not going overboard either. We're realizing that we need to do things in a measured amount so that we always have more for others, right? Okay. So notice how, and this is why I want to share this with you, and I think you have some understanding of what I'm saying. Some understanding, okay. This could get very complicated, but I think, and if you notice, if you go through these pages here, it's very, very specific in what it's saying. And now you have some idea of the vocabulary, and therefore it could make, when you do the Omer each day, so let's say, for instance, you remember, oh, by the way, and I don't want to complicate things too much, but take, for instance, day one. Day one is Sunday night and Monday. As you all know, what is the Sefirot governing Monday? Gevura, okay? But notice for the counting of the Omer, it's Chesed Shebechesed. So again, what Eric's now wondering is, how can you have so many different systems operating at the same time? Well, if you think about even our physical existence, right? We have different levels of energy operating at the same time. After all, there's radiation, there's gravity, there are other systems, energy levels, always operating at the same time, and we live through them. We experience all of them. But sometimes you're going to feel more than one, more than the other. So this is taking the Omer system and basically using it during the counting of the Omer, starting on the night of the 13th. Oh, God bless you, Marge. So it must be true, and I'm going to say now, really true now. God bless you, God bless you. And that is the Omer system overrides the day system, the traditional day system. Because every week of the year, Sunday is Chesed, Monday is Gevura, Wednesday is Tiferet, Thursday is Netzach, Friday is Hod. I missed a day there somewhere. Okay, Netzach is Wednesday, Hod is Thursday, Yesod is Friday, and Malchut is Saturday. Every single day of the week. But notice there are other systems operative during the Omer that override, and the energy is there. And that's why it's very important to do these meditations during the Omer, because the Kabbalistic system puts a tremendous amount of energy on us, the practitioners. And it literally says, this goes back to my original question. If you were to say to me, Rabbi, does this really work? What is there a reality to this, or is simply imagination, active imagination? Well, if you truly can believe that God has given you the opportunity to activate Chesed Shebechesed in your life a week from Monday, then guess what? You will. You will. And I believe that if you are able to achieve that belief, then guess what? It'll make a difference in your life and the life of everyone around you on that day. It's sort of like, I don't know, how many of you read horoscopes? People used to do that? Who is that? Yeah. My grandmother used to. How many of you have ever gone to a Chinese restaurant, gotten a fortune cookie, and you play the numbers? Yeah. Some people do, right? Okay. Well, guess what? This is much more real and much more dynamic than that, right? Yeah. I did try that once, actually. Did 4 of them at once. I made $4.
Wait, hold on.
So have you ever either changed or made an appointment or something important based on this?
I haven't changed as such, but what I get into on that day, I bring this mindfulness to whatever I'm doing.
I mean, you wouldn't not schedule something on a certain day because you knew it was not one of the,
Try never to schedule an operation on a Friday.
yeah, okay,
It's not a-
exactly,
You definitely don't want to
exactly.
be in a hospital recuperating on a weekend.
Well, that's just because of the way hospitals
Yeah,
run though,
not
right?
not because of Sefirot. But I've never tried to change anything that way, but I do try to bring that attitude, that mindfulness to the things that are happening on a given day. And that changes my attitude toward them. Yeah.
So, but during these 49 days where you have, the weeks applying, the Sefirot applying for the weeks and the Sefirot applying for the days, does that make any difference in how you might do something because of these
I
counting
think
of the
so.
Omer?
I might, yeah. I'd be mindful of certain things I would do. I certainly, let's say, for instance, if I wake up on a Thursday and I say, oh, I'm gonna go bike riding today, I might say, well, this is not necessarily the best day because the day of Hod, and I'm gonna have to work a lot harder. But on the other hand, if I want to get out and exercise, I'm gonna do it anyway, right? Yeah, you want to be careful of how far to take this. But I think that there's a lot of spiritual beauty in the system because it gives you another way of looking at what? At life. Right. And the fact is, and I've said this other times, I hope I have, and that is most of us just get through every day and say, wow, thank God I made it, okay? And we just go through the motions of the day. Well, why would you want to simply look back at the end of your life and say, you know something, I just got through, okay? I did what I needed to do. I just did the motions. I just went through the motions of life. That's pretty sad. You want to be able to maximize your life to the fullest every single day. And I think that what this system does is it applies the spiritual state, the emotional state, the intellectual state, the emotional state, and the physical state into a whole picture of its different aspects. And by the way, you can analyze yourself this way. Let's say, for instance, you're very tired physically, you're very tired. What that means is you're basically what? You're emphasizing too much your right side. You gotta what? Rest. Balance, exactly. The same way with you give too much, you're emphasizing too much chesed. And therefore you have to put in the key to the system is the middle column, finding balance in your life. And if you feel, and by the way, you can analyze anything. You can analyze the stock market, you can analyze the politics, you can analyze the world we live in. When there's too much emphasis on the left side, which is a critical way of viewing life, of judgmentalness, of categorizing people. The left side is basically anyone who's a racist, who's a bigoted, biased person is living on the left side, right? Completely. And they're lacking what? Compassion, Rahmanus, and therefore they're lacking the right side. And what we have to do is try to bring back the correction on it. And then the world will be a better place for everybody. You can apply this on so many levels. They come down from the divine, but we can bring them up the other direction as well by the way we handle our lives. So I want to share this. Does anyone have any other more questions? This is good. You glad you came today? If you're not, don't tell me. I'll feel it. I tried to. Excellent. Okay. Well, anyway, everyone, of course, keep in mind, we do have Passover coming up. We do have morning service on the first day and the last day for us as Reformed Jews. And please, everyone, have a wonderful Passover and be mindful. And may your life be filled with mindfulness and kavanah and in good intentions in order to bring God's blessings upon you. And thereby, if they're upon you, then guess what? They'll also be upon all of us. Because the beauty of a blessing is that it spreads. It flows outward from individuals, from a community, to the whole world. May it be so. Amen. Oh, say shalom bimroma. Huya say shalom aleinu. V'al kol Yisrael. V'immeru. Himaru, amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu. V'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu. V'al kol Yisrael, v'immeru, amen. All right, Shabbat. Shabbat shalom. Tomorrow night. We are together again. Yeah. Oh, but no food, no cake. Or no. Shabbat shalom, everyone on Zoom. Love you guys.
Oh, by the way, if you don't open papers, fine. If you're not going to keep the Hebrew one because you say, I don't really understand this whole thing, then please get it back to me. It's very holy, and I want to keep that.
Rabbi, do you have a soft copy of these so we can email them to the people on the Zoom?
Betty, no Betty?
We can scan them and email them.
Okay.
You know Betty, right?
Who?
You know Lynn?
Do we have one that doesn't have radio?